Good morning, everybody. More of the same. We're on hold till tomorrow. We'll see which way things fly. But yeah, little pop there on the inflation news, which I guess really not a big deal anyway. Little gap up here, 419, pretty much meaningless. Little gap up into that red bar. It's not gapping up to the top of it. It's not barely even gapping up to the middle of it. 420 was a level that we were talked about yesterday as to whether it would hold or not. It initially did until it didn't and just went down to the next level where it held. And so now we'll see if prices jiggle around in here and whether they want to break today to ultimately come down to this level. And we'll see, going into tomorrow, it's just a waiting game. Trend is down. Prices are stabilized for the moment. Things are, we talked yesterday, things are just getting tighter as we get closer to the news and winding the spring, so to speak. And, the options expiration, Fed, so on, Russia, all old news that will culminate tomorrow and into the end of the week. See which way things go. Hopefully, my hope anyway, is that it resolves itself to the downside in a rather nasty way, which will set up a fantastic opportunity for a snapback bounce. And, internals we haven't looked at in a few days, see where they're at. And so they're getting closer here to where we want them to be. So the ideal scenario, again, some downside price action. Everybody, there's the news, all these open interest and options that have to be, that are going to expire into the end of the week. And, this coming down to these levels, just ideally would be, historically, ideally would be a little more downside that gets, a little further to an extreme. And then we start a rally, which, okay, we're going to have overhead resistance to deal with. But the further we can potentially get away from it, an initial snap, and then however prices are going to deal with it. All right. So futures, beginning of the day, came down to the pivot low area, bounced back up on the news. As you can see, not very far into the yesterday's red bar. Prices just rallied up into resistance and then eventually gave it up. Initially it looked impressive early in the morning, but prices just went up into the resistance area where sellers were, and it just fell. And once it fell through 4,200, the next stopping point was over there, looking to the left, those pivots, and then chopping around. So now it's taken out these pivots. So a little bit of morning strength, and it could rally up a bit more. Well, let's look at the 15-minute chart. It's clearer there. And the concept of what's directly to the left is most important, and what we call minor resistance is much less important. The idea of neutralizing an area, whereas price is traded above and below. And this is one of the things was a giant light bulb moment for me many years ago in a situation like this, where you just, I looked at things the way everyone else looked at it. Right? And that's the fault that with technical analysis, is that we all accept what everyone else is looking at as being the case. And you see this area that is always looked at as resistance. And I would see a situation similar to this, where things turn around, and I'd say, how the hell did prices go through like that? Like it wasn't there. And then it was like, damn, it's been used up as a reference point. And you need rules to your analysis to guide you in what we call a thought process. And so all the chapters in MTS, they're called, different concepts that are create a thought process. And the thought process here is that this nasty move down, right, and then sideways, and the drop and the deep retracement, this becomes a shakeout pattern. And now there's a void above. Now that 4,200 level, with all those open interest of options that it sliced through and then headed down, come down to the next level. And now as it comes up there, sure, this whole number is going to be a reference point that we'll be looking at. However, there's really little to no overhead resistance here. So this could continue higher. And again, Fed announcement, blah, blah, blah. How aggressive do the traders want to get, or just, we get a little technical bounce and we'll see how far it gets. Now, the other idea here is, I would look at this on the 5-minute chart as, does it create a pivot? Which, okay, it created a pivot here, but this is a wide range bar. So let's assume that this continues to go up, and then at some point it's going to create, maybe before it gets up here. Right. I'm just explaining how to deal with this today, from the thought of it's going to go, get my drawing tool here, up here where the resistance is, that it comes up to 4,200, which is saying, okay, nothing is, forget that. We'll focus on this number. And so it pivots up here, right? 3 lower high bars to the left and right, and then a retest. So once it's created new resistance, you get a pivot. I'm trying to draw here. It's pretty terrible. A pivot high, and you get a retest. This could be an area where, now bar by bar analysis, some kind of bearish candle to short, and then we'll see, okay, it goes back down again. But ultimately, we're just in some trading range of continued waiting for the news. And it is what it is. Right? By the end of the week, we'll have a clearer situation where all of these open interest and options will evaporate. The Fed will be out of the way. Who knows what will happen in Russia? And of course, the looming China threat. Always going to be something to worry about. Same situation here, downtrend, down, retest, back up again, up against this pivot here. Nasdaq Futures. Again, we've had similar patterns across these markets now for a while. And I point that out because it's not always the case. There were times, where, and especially, a year or so ago, tech was all the rage, and we'd see tech leading the way up, and, the Dow not doing much of anything. So things change as to how environments are and what's leading and so on. So yesterday, financials, regional banks, they were doing well. They leading the way up early in the morning, and then they fell apart. So, institutions are trading like day traders there, and flip on a dime. And of course, that makes for a bit of a hairy situation of a market. But again, the trends are down. Intraday strength can turn into intraday weakness in a moment. And bottom of the trading range. We'll see if it holds. The bounce there, like everything else. How do I drag this thing down? There you go. Similar pattern. Break up here. Didn't clear the pivots, but it's got a void. So maybe we can get a little bit more going to the upside here. Bitcoin down at the bottom of the range, just sitting there. Set alerts, down below here or up above. There is some correlation with the markets to see which way that's going. Crude oil pulling back to where buyers should want to step up, and had that little blow off move, came back down into the support area here, and tagged 100 yesterday and held there for a little while. But coming down to where buyers should want to step up here. So 50 MA, pivot lows here. See this consolidation? It's an obvious place where it should begin to stabilize. And this could be something, I'll keep an eye on this. I will, just keep it in a thumbnail today just to see, does it begin to perk higher? Because that's going to rattle the markets. So something to keep an eye on for now into market analysis. Silver coming down, hit the 20. Obviously look great. And buyers should want to step up here again. And this inflation thing isn't going away. So, it just got a little ahead of itself. And so we need to see it begin to stabilize, bottoming tail bar, whatever the pattern's going to be. We'll see how it unfolds. It's coming back in here a little bit, pretty erratic price action. This has become relatively normal, spiking up. And this is the, look, these pivot highs and pivot lows, they're really fantastic and nothing magical about them. It's just a turning point. And we just define them as a bar with 3 lower highs to the left and right, or 3 higher lows to the left and right. And once we see that, sellers got aggressive there, and how do we measure aggressive? Well, how far does it pull back from where it came from? Well, what happens when it gets there? And so during a bottoming process, sellers tend to be much more aggressive than when prices are in an uptrend. Common sense. Whereas the likelihood of this continuing to move up within an uptrend is much greater than when things are either in a downtrend or trying to make a turn. Gold, similar, clearly downtrend there. Clusters of pivots. And again, this is coming down. 1900 maybe will be, just being the next level of a whole number, and this little shelf right there. So just make sure there's an alert set there. Done. You don't have to watch it. Let's see if it comes down there. That's just a picture of a mess of overlapping bars and tails. Still holding the support for now. And let's take a look at the VIX. Where's the VIX? No great information there. Interest rates. About, maybe got a little bit wider. Anyway, they're not touching yet. As mentioned, keep an eye on here, but this had a big move to the upside. 5-year getting over 2%. It's been that's been a long time since it's been up there. The 10-year up above 2%, a little bit higher, but they're getting closer together. So we're on hold. I mean, that's the bottom line. We'll see what develops today, and then of course tomorrow after 2:00, everybody will get what they've been waiting for, and we'll see which way things flip back and forth. So, all yours, Dan.
Good morning. Hey, you were supposed to talk longer today because I don't have that many gappers.
Not a heck of a lot to talk about.
I know, me either. So let's
tell them stories about, what you did last night and last weekend.
20 years ago at the internet trading Qualcomm. All right. So we entered a couple of shorts, call spreads yesterday. They all seemed fine. But this one, we're going to do a MT live on climactics, and I've been watching Chevron here ever since this gap down day. to sell an out of the money call spread, the 175s, and they were juicy as can be back then. And so this reminds me of Greg's slide where he goes from least potent to potent in terms of the turn. It can't get any higher, right? I mean, this is a great bar by bar analysis. So it made a new high, got rejected with a topping tail, bearish gap, bullish engulfing, bearish gap, closing in the lower 80, 90%. So we're getting close, close, close. I just need my trigger bar. Well, guess what? Now it's gapping down under. So the problem though, is it's gapping too big. I'm gapping down $7. Now, I would love this if it were just gapping under yesterday's low and then 10-minute low. We'd start off with a day trade short and hope it stays weak, and then we hold it as a swing. I mean, this can come all the way down to $1.50. So let's scan this sector today for call spread opportunities and swings. So, you know, Greg reviewed all this stuff. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So we did WDC. I'll just go through a couple things we're watching here. PayPal, I have an alarm set at 100. It's a potential bottoming pattern in a downtrend. Let's see, looking at the fangs, Echo Alpha, we did a call spread. Boot, potential bottoming pattern, but it has to get over Friday's high. Pack B, we shorted the stock yesterday. Beautiful, beautiful setup. You know, just consolidation in a downtrend with an upside shakeout. Look, this has been very easy to manage on the 15-minute chart. We're still in a full lot with a half lot over this pivot right here. Talking about pivots for management, this Wednesday, which is tomorrow, we have pivots for exits for objective trade management. And here's a beautiful example. You shorted this. What are your trade management rules? And what time frame do you want to manage it on? And even if you wanted to cover half over a prior pivot high, we're still in a full lot. With your feet on the table, it's very, very easy and objective. Wow, I see, Greg, your teal rate actually gapping up here. Nah, it's a bad tick, never mind. Wow, remember $4 was my new target. All right, so China's still getting beat up. They're talking about delisting. So I want to, you know, I mentioned yesterday, these are getting pretty climactic on volume, the whole sector. We'll just keep an eye on it. Baidu, airlines maybe ready for a pop. $37. That is a price for it. That looks really good. Putting that in a window. UAL, I don't know if it was earnings or just guidance, but they came out and said something. Now this would be what I call just riding the elevator back up for you know, a little swing trade. That's a big price void. It's on a nasty downtrend, daily, weekly, monthly. Delta 30. Hey, Delta looks better. Why do I say that? Because it's gapping over this, just over this red bar. Look at that. All right, I'm going to put Delta here. So they had a big run here pre-market, but maybe 30-minute high. Myrna, I posted this yesterday afternoon that it was a watch into the close to sell a put spread. But you can see it retraced too much, a topping tail over 50%. So we didn't do anything. But guess what? Now it's gapping up here to resistance in a bullish pre-market. So it's back above this 50% mark. So if this takes out a 30-minute high, then I posted that already. That's a 30-minute high put spread. Coup earnings. And then this is getting whacked. I mean, you can calculate the percentage, but 90 down to 65 is getting 25 bucks down, and it's already far from the 20. So is this thing all-time lows? So do I have a bullish, bearish, or neutral bias? Well, I'll tell you more in 30 minutes, but my absolute bias right now is a gap and snap. And the premiums are going to be off the charts high with this downtrend. I hope they have low enough strike. Yeah, they do. Good. Yeah, it goes all the way to 35. So let's watch the premium on this in the mornings. I love trades like that. So COP 92. See, CVX is superior because it has a bigger price for it. GTLB had earnings, 38 bucks. Gap into resistance. I don't know. You can come back to it. Mountain, it's opening flat. It's in a downtrend. I got no interest in that. Holly 15. There's a bullish gap. That's a pro gap. We'll come back to that. ANPI gapping down to 34.50. That's if it doesn't have much volume, so it's hard to trust. But that's a beautiful gap. If it's in a downtrend, look at all the MAs. I'm gonna put that in a window. NIP, and that's on earnings. ALT. Wow. Look at that. I mean, there's so many stocks that are just getting decimated here. Look at that. That's a bearish consolidation and a downtrend. It's gapping up a little, 660, but nothing significant. C-turn, another nasty downtrend. Gap down, bouncing. We'll come back to you. JD, that's in the Chinese stuff. STZ, I think, John, it might have been you who mentioned this yesterday. And look at gapping up a little bit, bottoming pattern. You got two gap reversal, well, one gap reversal, one bottoming tail. Closing breakout. So that looks great. I'm putting that in a window. These are some from leftover Twilio. You know, I know it's down a lot, but there's a lot of things going lower. FMC had positive Barron's mention, and I said yesterday that it still looked great because it traded under Friday's low. So, you know, not a great place to get on, but that still looks great. IDXX yesterday morning, I was hoping for a 1, 2, 3, which is a bearish inside bar in the lower third, and then we'd short the lows today, but it kept going. Rublex, poor thing, and all-time lows. Look at that. That's a steady, nasty downtrend. So that one still looks fine to short as a new trade because it's just steady bearishness, and it's not climactic from the 20. So that looks good. Piton coming, well, it's rallying here pre-market, but under yesterday's low. Affirm was another one on our list yesterday. It added this big old spike pre-market, so we held off on it, but that would have been a good 5-minute low trade. I am just keeping an eye on because of the commodity crunch. Do you remember up here, John, at 12, whatever it was, I was looking at the $25 call options to short. They were massive. Remember that? We had the discussion about, hey, do you want to trade the chart or, you know, we know the danger of a short squeeze, but look, what were the odds of this going to here in 10 days? Could it happen? Of course. You never hear me saying, oh, that'll never happen. I don't talk that way. I say extremely probable or likely. That would have been a beautiful trade. And we can check out the FANGs, Microsoft. And this is going to be a day that even if we get day trade setups because of the price void, there is no compelling pattern on the daily to do anything. Look at this. Poor Apple closing at multi-month lows. I wouldn't even day trade that one because the momentum down is so big. Same with Amazon. I have zero interest. Facebook. Facebook, I'm setting an alarm at 186. If that gives up today's gains and breaks down, then yesterday's topping tail will be very good breakdown. So 180, well, I'll set it at 187 to be early. Tesla, it broke down. That's nothing to do there. Netflix, I said yesterday morning that this looked like a directional short. Google's at the bottom of the range. So you know what, John, depending on what happens here through tomorrow after FOMC, this one could be a definite put spread candidate for Friday, but I'm not touching it right now. All right, 15-minute charts of the horsemen. Actually, diamonds are the strongest, just like yesterday, in terms of the gap into yesterday's range, but in terms of risk to reward for a bigger price void, the Qs have more room to run. 5-minute high, same with IWM, although IWM has been more weak. Here, Delta here, see, darn it. See, it was gapping at 34 when I mentioned it, right? All right, these airlines there's definitely some action in there today. Look at United ripping.